I'm a PoolTool. I am broadcasting you live from my son's bedroom in Oregon. It is actually a wonderful office. I have 3 doors between me and the rest of the house, and so it's very quiet all day. It's actually better than my real office. So today we are going to talk about PoolTool and the Cardano community. And I like to start this presentation with a quote from Steve Jobs. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. And I think for a lot of us working in the cryptocurrency space, we have to take a lot of this with us when we're working on these things. It's not clear when, how all this will come together. We just know it's going to work out. And the things we work on today, sometimes it's hard to see exactly how they're going to get to that ultimate goal. But we have to have faith at the same time that what we're doing is going to have an impact somehow and be useful for our future children and our children's children and so on and so forth. So to help that, we're going to have a little fun with it. And we're going to use a time machine. We're going to go into the future. And I'm going to kind of give you a vision where I think this is going. And then from there, we'll take a step back and see how the pieces kind of line up maybe to get there. So I actually was just using this last week. I had to test it, of course, before I wanted to give this presentation. So I went back to 1989 just to test and make sure it worked. And I'd like to share, if it's okay, I'd like to share a few pictures from my time back in 1989. So I actually went to Denver, and look who I found. I found Charles. He was playing chess. Anyway, so I just wanted you to see that. It was kind of fun. Doing a little bit of math, and then he also, of course, had some horses too. So anyway, it was amazing to see Charles there and kind of get a sense of his life. And I want to share those pictures with you. All right. So now back to the present time, and let's take a trip, shall we? So where are we heading? We're going to October of 2075. Off we go. Okay. Okay. So, hey, here's the cool thing. In 2075, they are actually using paper still for their newspaper articles, and I thought that was kind of cool. And the U.S. dollar, this is a good one. The U.S. dollar hit a low against the Lovelace. It was at 1450 Lovelaces per U.S. dollar. Pretty amazing. The CF7 happened, and actually this is where the world's leaders converged to talk about financial platforms and stuff like that. And the cool thing is that the Lovelace is now planning to be adopted by the Mars and the Titan colonies for all of their infrastructure as well, which I thought was kind of cool stuff. The third thing is I got there was a release on SolarNet. So the phase 2 platform for SolarNet was released. And I went on Twitter too, and I checked it out, and there were all these people talking about how it just continuously got delayed. And a lot of people talking about how they thought that this platform would never be anything more than a wallet. And so it's good to see that this actually finally got out. So within 30 minutes of it being spun out, there was 5,000 pools spun out making blocks on SolarNet. And the cool thing is it allows instantaneous transaction settlement between Titan, Mars, and the Earth at the same time. Anyway, you can read more about it here. Marcus has a quote there. All right, that was kind of fun. So then the other cool thing is Wikipedia. They actually don't censor Cardano anymore. It's kind of cool. So I checked out the global financial system, and you'll see that actually Cardano is listed right here. So global financial system is the worldwide Cardano 88 based platform. I thought that was very interesting. All right, and then it wouldn't be a cryptocurrency kind of presentation without at least looking at market caps in 2075. So any guesses? This is the first one. What's number one cryptocurrency in 2075? That's right, it's the US dollar. So the US dollar made it to the number one. And again, we just saw that article. It just kind of dropped to 50 years low. But it's still a very large cryptocurrency. Number 2 is Bitcoin. Can you believe it? Yeah, Bitcoin made it. Still there, still cranking along, but they are pretty much all out there now. They only have 2 BTC left that they can actually create. So it's mostly transaction fees at this point. And the third one, actually, I thought this was kind of cool. Third one is the ITN coin. Can you believe it? That made it. So anyway, it's amazing where that thing has gone since it was created back in back in 2020 and so on. All right, last thing, just for fun, PoolTool headquarters. They've grown a little bit since then, so it's good to see that this little thing I created in my son's bedroom is doing well. All right, so let's go back to the present time, all right, shall we? And we'll talk a little bit more about PoolTool. So wait, who's that? Oh my gosh, Rick. Rick is time traveling again. Oh, jeez. Okay. I'm sorry. I like to have fun with it. So the point is, we're having fun with what we're doing. We're building stuff, but we're also enjoying the process because this is in for the long haul. We're not having fun. It's going to be a very painful process. So. And we're building something amazing for the future generations. And if you don't believe this, you probably shouldn't be hanging out in the crypto space. And we're building this together. And we can use everyone's creativity when it comes to building things out. So again, for me, I just wanted to get involved somehow and contribute somehow to the community. And I saw some gaps. And so I started filling them. And that's what we all need to do in the community, is where you see the gaps, where you see things that might be useful, step in and just start building stuff. And I can tell you, just based on my experience, the community is very receptive to that and very encouraging of it. And I really appreciate that. So let's talk a little bit more about PoolTool now. Just so you have a sense, I don't really disclose this stuff outside of a few people. So stats-wise, we've had about 20,000 unique visitors visit the website since it started in October, November of last year. They're there for about 5 minutes at a time, and that's about 540,000 unique page views over that time. And you can see where people are coming from is really the US, Japan, and Korea, and then it's pretty well spread out over the rest of the world after that, with the exception, of course, of Greenland, it looks like. So we got to work on our outreach for the Greenland people and make sure that they're well aware that there are cryptocurrencies and they aren't just Bitcoin for mining. So the other thing is about 300 pools report block data to us every day. In fact, they hit the API quite frequently for that. Some of the pools are hitting it every 20 seconds or so. And about 150 pools report the slide assignment. So this is how many blocks they were assigned in a certain epoch that they can kind of then measure themselves as far as performance too. And that all results in about 1,000 API hits per minute. So it's not astronomical rates, but certainly for kind of a hobby website and some we're just getting started, it's quite a bit to deal with on the backside. So a few more stats. Time of day, it's all about the epoch switchovers when people are there. So leading right up to it, which is right before the switchover, and then right after the switchover, there's a huge surge, and then it kind of falls off after that. So again, it makes sense. People are they're looking at the performance. How's my pool doing? Do I want to make a delegation change? If the answer is no, then they kind of allow it to happen, or if yes, then they'll let that delegation go through. We already talked about the sessions by country. We just articulated the United States is number 1, Japan, South Korea, Netherlands, and the UK. And then PoolTool is mostly a desktop website at the moment. And I haven't optimized it much for mobile at this point. There's some other good solutions out there, like the Pegasus app, to do that. But at this point, it's still around about 40% of the visitors are on mobile. As far as page views go, the number 1 page is, of course, the main page. That's where everything is listed out and sortable and searchable and stuff for all the different pools on the platform. At this point, there is over 1,300 pools, it looks like, on the ITN. And you can also get a sense of where we're at as far as block heights go and synchronization stuff. So that's the number 1, and it's got about half the page views that everyone has. So people come in, they get most of that they need just directly from this page, and then they get out. It's pretty amazing itself. It's very dense data on that page. Second most popular page is the slot battles. It's actually one of my favorite places to be as well, because you can sit here and just watch these things filter through. And if you're not familiar with what a slot battle is, it's how the protocol actually allows multiple pools to create the same block. And then there is a competition of sorts to decide who wins that block. That may or may not be how it operates finally, but this is how the ITN has worked. It's been a kind of a fun part of the ITN is not only observing those, but also comparing and contrasting the different pools and how successful they are in these type of competitions based on how they're set up, where they're located, and stuff like that. So again, fascinating stuff. Tons of literature out there about slot and height battles. So check it out if you haven't already. That's about 5% of the page views. The next most popular page is a health page. Again, I can sit here for a while too because these things all update real time. So the synchronization, for example, how many pools are synchronized to the current height of the blockchain. So if we're all in the same place, all 300 of them, then it would be 100%. If a few of us have fallen behind or way ahead, in the case of Rick, for example, then that percentage drops off. But this is a fun one to look at too. But it's only 2.5% of the views. So again, people will mostly get the data they need out of the main page, and then they'll come here once in a while and just check out how things are doing. Lastly, a very small percentage is the metadata stuff, but I do find this fascinating. So we allow the pool operators to specify like what country they're operating in, what country their servers are in, and a few other attributes and stuff, and then we'll just rack and stack it and show you guys. So if you're looking for a pool in a particular country or an operator that is in a particular place or has a particular type of infrastructure, you can come to this page and find out. So now let's talk a little bit about the evolution of PoolTool and where it started from. So it started back in October 2019. That's about the time the ITN was, the first releases of the ITN Joe Montgomery platform were just coming out. And a lot of people think that I created PoolTool, but I got to tell you that it wasn't really me. The idea all came from Dissim. So Sam actually created the first version that I consider of PoolTool, which was the JAnalyze script that he included in his Nix repo. And I don't know if he created it or his teammates created it or what, but at any rate, this was one of the first scripts that I really enjoyed looking at because I wanted to see how my pool was doing compared to the other pools. And was I making as many blocks as they were for my stake? And I just wanted to kind of have some attributes to compare and contrast things with. So hats off to you for creating the platform initially. And all I did after that is I put a PR in and added just a little bit of myself. And I did an aggregate version of the same thing. So now we could see, not just for an epoch, but for all time, how many blocks you've made as compared to anyone else in the system. So that was really the genesis of the whole platform. The other thing that was happening at the time was about adversarial forking, for example. This is a fun dialogue. So I spun up two instances of the same thing, and I started making, with the same secrets, and I started making blocks. And then I just mentioned it to everybody. I said, okay, so I'm doing this thing. I'm forking the network. How's everyone doing? Is this causing problems for everybody? And so of course got an answer. You mean 2 leaders, the same ID? It's like, yeah. And he said, well, that used to cause panics for the platform. So this is the first time that there was a forker, apparently. Now, I bet someone had done it before, but now I'm labeled a forker because I was one of the first ones. And so that's where we knew we also had to start observing this in the system. And I knew that we wanted to have a platform to be able to kind of not so much report it, and of course that's what it became, was reporting kind of a social pressure kind of thing. But it was mostly just observational. So, if you are running multiple secrets, I wanted pool operators to know about it, and I wanted the ability for the network to sense that. And so that's where I was like, oh, there's an opportunity here to build something. The other thing that was happening was we were monitoring our platform with a small group of us. We had a bunch of nodes operating. And Gufmar, who I think a lot of you know because he's very famous, he was actually the second person ever in the Shelley workgroup channel. That was way back, like 2 years ago now. So he's been involved forever, but he helped us put together the PRTG platform. And so we were measuring blocks and assignments and, node heights and stuff like that. And it was just a wonderful platform for us to all be able to learn about the protocol and the systems and how our nodes in particular, it wasn't just theoretical, it was our nodes, and we knew what we were doing. And we could see how the effect of our changes on the whole system at once. And so that was happening. And so I thought, that was kind of a nice little piece of it. And then the other thing was competitive forks. So this is kind of fun. So one quiet, if you read this, I'm not expecting you to now, but if you read it, it says one Sunday morning, I was just looking through the logs and I noticed that, hey, there was this one place where there's basically 3 different pools that made 3 different blocks for the same exact slot. And I was like, well, there's something wrong. I mean, what is going on? And then, of course, my buddies, this is OCG, told me that's had multiple leaders for that slot. And I was like, what? Are you crazy? And, I kept getting a little more feedback. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. I mean, so someone had thought this through, that we're going to need the ability to have multiple pools make the same block in the same slot. Not because it's great, but it's because it's a way to protect the protocol. And that just kind of blew my mind. Now, I knew that, they had thought through a lot of this stuff before that, but I guess the reason it blew my mind is it kind of started taking me into the path of really investigating the protocol, reading a lot of the papers and understanding how all this fits together and why it was important that they had to make this decision to do this. And it makes all the sense in the world in retrospect. But anyway, it was just a wow moment. So again, I wanted the ability to kind of measure that. And so the result was I with a little bit of help from a few friends, but we started out making a system to kind of keep track of the various pieces of the platform. And so where it started was something that looked a lot like JAnalyze, and then it kind of just kept evolving from there. So at this point, I figured I'd just share with you the architecture. I do this question once in a while, so now it's as good a time as any to talk about it. And I should mention that this is the architecture for the original PoolTool. So we are also working on the FF PoolTool or the HTN PoolTool now, and that has a slightly different architecture. So obviously, it's got a database and similar things, but it's very different. But anyway, there's an AWS S3, which is just basically like a hard drive, and DynamoDB. And what we do is we run the DynamoDB through the AppSync GraphQL, which is a highly scalable GraphQL engine. So it allows us to feed that real-time data out to the Vue front end, which is an S3 hosted, which is web app. And we do all the identity authentication through Cognito. So it's really, this is a poster child for the AWS platform, honestly. We have a bunch of Lambdas that we've set up for handling all the I/O with the API. And so that's what gets hit, and data gets written either directly to the S3 or it goes eventually through the Dynamo and GraphQL. And then I have a little EC2 instance set up. Depending on the state of Jorm, it's scaled from a massive 8 CPU platform all the way down. I think it's running on 2 CPUs at the moment. But it's had to scale up and down as necessary. And honestly, that's been a wonderful part of using the AWS platform. So it's got Jorm, it's got the wallet on there, and then it has a little script written in Python that queries the blockchain and uses the Explorer out of Jormonger to get all the data it needs to show up into that Dynamo database. So there is a little piece of a JAnalyze left in there still. So Sam, you'd be very, very proud to know you're part of PoolTool, just like I said originally. All right, and the other thing I just say is that where PoolTool is at is not just about me or a few people I have coding. It's really a community, and a lot of people have contributed to the platform over the last 6 months. And I try to list them out here. I have a way to kind of highlight them on the website if they contributed either code or their time or some really useful information, for example. So they all show up here. But also the data that comes out of PoolTool is really cool how it kind of has moved through the ecosystem as well. So I, of course, provide all this data openly accessible on an S3 buckets for people to grab when they need different versions or slicing and dicing of it. I'll do that for people. Again, the goal is really about just having a community resource for data. And that's what I've done. So Pete Sutton, who's I got a Telegram group, he publishes a bunch of data on the pool performance every week. I think he's been doing that for at least 150 bucks now. It's amazing. And he'll change the background, pictures and stuff like that, which is kind of fun to see these. But generally, he's just keeping track of all the pools and all their performance in a way that everyone's used to at this point. We've also had some really good statistical analysis done on it. This is an example of a guy that he actually published it. I have a link to it here that Sam put together. An analysis of all the slot battles and stuff on the system and how they imply basically propagation delays associated with the nodes, different nodes. So I thought it was a really interesting set of data. So, and there's been more people that have used the platform as well for various things, and the data from it. I just had a request last night from Marcus, for example, for more data. And so it's really been neat to see not only how the data be collected and presented, but to see the community come up with creative ways to use that data. So where is this all going? Well, we, of course, are working on HTN and mainnet platform for people. We absolutely need to get the translations done for Japanese and Korea at the top of the list. Dutch, I think, I'm just going to say that you can probably get by with English better than those two, so, but we may do Dutch as well. I'd like to do some probies and achievements and stuff like that, kind of gamify the platform, have it, really be fun. And I know that the pool operators really enjoyed watching, their slot battles happen. When they won, they got the crown and so on. And so it's kind of give you bragging rights. And I think that's fun. Just makes it enjoyable for everybody. I'd like to do more real-time views. I mean, I think this live data thing is a really important part of future websites. And so I'd like to kind of continue emphasizing that and building out views of stuff that is constantly real-time. This is more analysis with charts, statistics for people, to decide where to delegate, for example, would be important, but also just to compare performance and understand the blockchain. I really want to help communicate and educate people on how this is working. And there's people that are coming into it that want to understand initially what a slot battle is, why we have them, how they resolve, and so on and so forth. So I think that it's important. It's going to be important for a long time to have educational platforms like this. Obviously, we got to reduce the platform cost. The current AWS architecture is quite expensive to operate, so that's actually part of why I'd like to see the ITN kind of fade away, just because I like to transition over to the new platforms that I have that are lower cost. But I certainly will be here for the community as you need for that platform. And a few more secrets that I'm not ready to tell you guys about yet. So what we're talking about, HTN and the Friends and Family Internet Network, which is actually going to switch over today, I think, to the new Genesis. But we already have one out there as ffpooltool.io at the moment. Again, this platform for the HTN is actually going to move to the main website. We're moving the ITN one off to a kind of a secondary website, but you'll be able to enter between the two and see them. But we already have a simple version of it out there for the HTN. We are keeping track of blocks. This is just our way of kind of live view updating of all the different blocks that are applied on the HTN. And it's our way of getting to know the DB-Sync platform and seeing how that works and what data we can clean out of it. And we're also keeping track of topologies in there. So one of the things about the HTN at the moment is that you define your topologies and put them in the system. And so there's a lot of different ways to create a topology or get on other topologies list. We provide one called the Buddy system, which allows you, if you do that, it allows you to also see it visually, which is kind of a neat, I really enjoy the visualization. It will update and change over time. You can kind of see how your node connects to everyone. So that's where we're at today. I just figured I'd show you also one more piece of data, just because I thought it was interesting. When they asked me to give this presentation, one of the first thoughts I had was to think about Telegram, because it's been such a central part of PoolTool and my learning over time. So I just took a look at, for example, the main stake pool work group, and about 200,000 messages we posted there just in the last year. And I would say that I've read probably most of those, if not all of them. And then with the other groups I've been involved with over time, it's 250,000 messages or so that I've read on Telegram during this time, which is a considerable amount of activity. But honestly, it went fast because it's just so enjoyable. But for fun, I also took a look at the word count. So I took all of those messages, because I'm a data guy, and I threw them into a system that will count those words. I throw out all the kind of really common English words. I didn't do too much complex analysis of it, but I just then racked and stacked them for the most common to least common. It's not that interesting, but I thought I'd share it anyway. And I think there's a couple of things. Obviously, number one, most common word on the Shelley work group is node. Okay? No surprise there, I guess. But I thought it was kind of cool that also in the top list, this 30 most common words used on the ITN Shelley work group is thanks. And also the smiley face is right up there. the top 30 things ever posted on there. So I thought that was great to see. I mean, we're a good community. We help each other out. When we have questions or it's not working right, we'll ask. And then we're also thankful when we keep things light, at least light enough. So I know that there's a lot of passion around certain things. But in generally speaking, it's light, airy, fun. But also we're working towards a really important goal for the future. So that's all I got for you today. There's a little bit about me, my background. I'm not going to read this to you, but what's important is I love to ski. I love to sail. And someday I hope to sail around the world. I'm really excited about the Starlink platform that's coming out because I think that's going to allow me to have a reasonably priced, low latency connection to the internet while I sail around the planet. We'll see. And then the last thing I just leave you with is that it's not, I mean, what I've done with PoolTool, for example, is just one little piece. Again, even the original idea was not my own. But I keep feeling this every time I work with Cardano, the platform, or build on top of it, is that this, you know, the only reason I'm able to do this is because I'm working on top of something amazing that other people have built. And I really appreciate what the team has taken, you know, what they've done for this platform over the years. So it's only because I'm on the shoulders of giants that PoolTool even exists. And it's only because I have everyone's help in the community that PoolTool exists, including educating me and how the platform works. So that is all I have for you today. In case you're curious and in case there's any lawyers watching, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a financial advisor. And very importantly, I have no idea what's going to happen in the future. This is all just for fun. So again, thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy the presentation. And I look forward to seeing everyone else's presentation. Bye-bye.